Oh, Melbourne is going off at the moment. Landlords not happy. We're going to talk about the destruction of landlords and what that means to residential rents for everyone. Stay tuned.
I'm the ringleader, so listen up.
Cleo Witt here, expert property manager. The government does not like landlords. They don't like them.
No, and then the tenants don't like property managers. It's an overflow.
What do you
No, not good.
reckon?
I really can't see what's happening. Where's this, crystal ball projection, going to help our rental crisis at the moment? Um, there's no supply, there's no stock, there's hardly any properties to rent, and now they're doing this to landlords as well. Like I just, it's very confusing for someone like me.
Probably for 25 years, we've seen the demise, the disincentives, the destruction, the make life harder for the landlord. You got to be resilient. The incentives that were brought in the 80s for investment properties to come into the marketplace, like capital gains incentives, like negative gearing. Those things brought landlords into the market. They had a party, and tenants benefited because there was more properties brought on to rent out. And I liken the landlord to a farmer. If you destroy the farmer, you destroy the crops. If you destroy the landlord, you destroy the investment property. So everyone's talking about building, 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 but it's driving landlords out of the market with these the last 25 years of record tightening with these guys. Can you give us some examples, Claire, of what you've heard landlords say in the crush?
Well, I mean, what they say obviously is that it's not cost effective to own an investment property anymore. They try to hold on, and it's not viable. So they end up asking for an appraisal within our office, and they sell the investment that it may have taken them years and years and years to save to purchase, or to leave to a friend or a loved one, family member, whatever. They're not in a position to do that anymore. It's not just land tax. You've also got strata, you've got water, you've got all the outgoings on top of land tax as well. Um, Strata is a big killer for a lot of clients at the moment. These special levies get raised. A lot of these investment properties as well are aging. Not to go off topic, but the buildings are starting to now need an upgrade, and all those costs are something they may have known about, but it's a big whack as well. And you can only do one rent increase per year. You can't get your tenant out when you want. It's like their hands are tied behind their back constantly. So it is very difficult to navigate. When you hear, a tenant might say this is ridiculous, the rent's too high. And then on the flip side, we have in our ear the other side of it too. And you can't really onset that to a tenant. You can't tell them, well, the owner's land tax has just increased by, however many thousand. They don't care. They don't want to hear that anyway, because the cost of living is high. Gosh, it sounds all doom and gloom, but the cost of living is high. Groceries, everything costs money. And, we've got these laws being passed in that's just crushing everything. I don't know how they meet, what they discuss. Did they not have their coffee that morning? I don't understand.
Well, to give people a typical example of the life of a landlord, how different it's become lately is we had a landlord that's 82 years old moving out of a house and moving into their investment property because it had no stairs. they put their property on the market 4 months ago, 5 months ago. They decided they didn't get the price they wanted on their property that they're selling. But while they were selling, they said we better ask the tenant to leave our property where they were renting for the last 25, 30 years. And the tenant left in November, and the landlord kept it vacant for 4 or 5 months. 4 months. The landlord hasn't gotten the price they're happy with. They're going to stay in their current property, and they're going to re-rent the property where they asked the tenant to go. And now there's a case that fair trading has taken up against the landlord and against the property manager, because they're saying you can't get rid of your tenant, and they're going, well, what he was this is how long it's been on for. He's going to stay in the property he's currently in, and now he wants to put a tenant in. What's the problem? No, this is you've breached. Well, you're going to get a fine. Like,
But he
what the
left the
hell?
property vacant.
He left it vacant. Like, what sort of country are we in that that someone can get to the age of 80, own a property for 30 or 40 years in the rental market, supply it to tenants, have it rented, made some nice money out of it. I get it, but now we're telling the guy that he can't put a tenant back in. He has to move in. Like, what? It's just, you keep inflicting pain on these landlords. They are out. They are gone, and the rents go up because there's less landlords in the marketplace. Do people not get that?
They don't. They just don't get it at all. And we get tenants that haggle on a $10 rent increase. It's like it took them a lot of thought to even ask for $20, and now you want to haggle me down to 10. They're not even that doesn't even cost the $20 rent increase that we've on set to you. It doesn't even, it's a drop in the ocean of what some of
It's not
these landlords are
proportionate.
paying.
It's not proportionate to what the land that increase on rent is not proportionate to the increase on cost for the landlord. Now, I'm sensitive for tenants out there in the marketplace. I understand life's hard, but I think there's got to be some sort of sensitivity out there also, equally for landlords, because there's none. There is none. There is no. There is no, like, what are we going to do to make this rental market better? How do we put more rental properties into the rental pool for tenants so their rents don't go up? It seems so small-minded. They're looking at the quick wins so they can get voted back in as politicians, but in the longer term, they're big losses for the tenants out there. It's the everyone's getting punished. The tenants are getting punished with rental increases, and the landlords are getting punished with these disincentives for being a landlord.
Yeah, and if increasing the rent is the only way for a landlord to, keep their property, tenants are going to start seeing $100 and $200 rent increases every year. You can only do one. That's a huge whack per month. What else? What I don't understand what other option there is, unless they abolish the legislation with the no 90-day grounds notice, which they're probably not going to do. That's the only thing I can see is happening.
I counted 78 negative changes towards landlords in my career. The other day, I went through it with with the help of ChatGPT as well. But there was 78 negative changes towards landlord in my career of real estate, and there was a lot of them were to the benefit of tenants, which is great. But if the bottom line is, if you introduce more landlords into the market, if you double the amount of rental properties in the pool, rents will go down.
It's basic maths, like you said, no brainer. We have, I think, out of our, big rent roll, we only have 10 or 11 properties on the market for rent at the moment. That is unheard of. Again, we're seeing these unprecedented low numbers of rental stock come available. no one can rent a house on the northern beaches. There are no houses really. There's nothing. There's 3 bedrooms are in high demand. Again, we don't have many of those. So yeah, like that Mr. Landlord who had that, beautiful home that he paid off and the tenant was there for 25 years. That's amazing. But it's time for the tenant to move along and not be bitter about it. Why go to NCAT about it? The
Oh,
landlord's
the tenant,
getting.
the tenant didn't.
Oh, it wasn't the tenant. It was just
No,
they just found out that it was a right. Oh,
it's even
wow,
worse.
that's
I,
even worse. Yes, that's worse.
hey, worse. So at the end of the day, I think, look, today's I don't know, would you call it a rant? I don't know what you call it, but it's basically. I think we just got to be really, really careful about what we wish for because, like I said, those all of those things I counted in my career where landlords have been slammed and slammed and slammed, and not slammed once. These are permanent legislative things that have been brought in place. It's just like tighten and tighten and tighten and tighten the neck of a landlord. Landlords are going, you know what? I'll just throw the money in the stock market. It'll be fine. Don't worry
Yeah.
about it. Like, what am I going to do? And then there's another one less property in the rental market for tenants to use and to occupy. So, guys and girls, I've got to say, just I understand it's hard for tenants out there with rental increases, and definitely were to do more for them. But I think more for them isn't making life harder for a landlord. That is not going to help our tenants with rents stabilizing or rents and rents not increasing. We've got to also look at incentives for these landlords to put more properties into the market and into the rent of the pool, so it eases off for tenants. They can't find stuff out there, and rents are going up and up because of it. Makes me sick.
It's a very harsh reality to deal with on a daily basis. That's for sure.
Claire Witt here, expert property manager. This is a big topic. It's a sensitive one.
It is. I'm heading into the office now to do all my rent increases. Just kidding. No,
All right, guys.
yeah. Have a great day.
I
See
I
you.
sometimes think it's good to be counterintuitive and do the opposite. So, I would encourage landlords to get into the market because if rents are going to continue to do this, then just yes, it's going to be super hard, super costly, but just get in anyway.
When there's blood on the streets, as they say, for sure.
Thanks, Cleo. Take care.
See you.